in the past, I feel like even younger years, I could really like take in some of the energy or loudness or intensity if I'm also releasing as
Oh.
well on into watercolor, into painting, listening to conversations that maybe were a little bit more intense in family, but then me being kind of like observer, taking in emotions while that like doing something grounding, doing something releasing. And so for
Mm.
me, it's always been there, that kind of, yeah, that like creative part. So doing art still to this day
Mm-hmm.
just feels incredibly grounding and incredibly expressive.
Welcome to Sensitive Stories. This episode is for educational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for treatment with a mental health or medical professional. Let's dive in. So, Lucy, could you start off by telling us your HSP discovery story? How, when you realized that you're a highly sensitive person?
Yeah. So I actually did a little bit of exploring of this last night, just kind of
Mhm.
noticing. And with for me, exploring can be with cards. So I actually pulled
Yes.
a card to just notice what is that like first time really connecting with that, like, oh, I'm sensitive. And the one was Three of Cups, and it was three women that just looked like just really close friends in the image, and it really reminded me of like I've always known through friendship. I've always known through relationships with others, and in the beginning, I felt like there was a lot of nurturing of my sensitivity and feeling like very much like the connections I had with as a young child with others. Like I always felt like very like connected, noticing others' experiences, observing, but also the people around were also in that way too. And so there is like this warmth and connection there, and like that creativity and the like playing with fairy houses and being in the garden and loving little smells and not loving really strong things or not loving a certain scratchy or like face cloth and like all of that, but just that understanding. But then I felt like in fourth grade, I really noticed it more of like, oh, my son, not everyone around me is sensitive like this. And I can be told I'm too sensitive and I can be bullied for it or that kind of feeling. So I felt like I've always kind of known, and there is this way it's like been nurtured. And then later on it was like, oh, actually this is different, and this is maybe like I can feel more overwhelmed, or when things are more fast, or when more is like in school is required of me, or the world, there's actually harder things that I'm seeing, like all of that, just feeling it so heavily.
Yeah.
um so it was kind of, yeah, that question, just noticing of like, at first it's all, yeah, that the earlier like sensitivity is okay. And then little by little, yeah, it's shifting.
Yeah, it really does happen in a relationship, does it, when we have that mirror? I hadn't really thought about that before, but that's when we see it, when we're having things reflected back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how beautiful to have that foundation of acceptance and nurturing around your sensitivity
Mhm.
before going out into the world and then getting those messages. I think that we've all heard at some point of too sensitive.
Yeah.
But how beautiful to hear that there was those playing with fairy houses and
Yeah.
being in the garden and just sharing. It sounds like there were people in your life that you got to share your sensitivity with.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. absolutely, and, like, honored, so, like, people pointing out, like, "Oh, you really connected with that stranger or that new friend," or,
Yeah.
like, "You went out of your way there to, like, explore this little flower with a
Yeah.
new person in preschool," or something like that kind of noticing, but then later on that, like, "Whoa, things are heavy," or "This is hard," and then kind of
Yeah.
that extending on of,
Mm.
oh, this is actually, there's not like everyone isn't exactly like this, or other people are totally
Yeah.
okay with the busyness and like almost want it.
Right, that's true.
No.
No, thank
Yeah.
you.
No.
But
Yeah.
beautiful that you got to highlight the gifts of sensitivity early on instead of
Mm.
having to try to weed through the difficulties later to find it. It
Yeah.
seems like did it stay in your awareness, the gifts of sensitivity, or did it fade as other people came into your life?
Yeah, I feel like it kind of there was like places where it felt okay to really show myself in
Mm.
relationships, and that's kind of throughout life, like knowing those, like these are the ones that I can really share those sensitivities or really ask for things to like meet my sensitive needs. But then there's others that just feel like, oh, I really like I don't show it, and it kind of fades in those. And I felt like
Mm.
there was a lot of time, like kind of more middle school, high school, like all of that, where it
Mhm.
just started to be like, oh, like I have to just like meet other people's needs, or like I can't, like that the things that I need to be on the back burner, or
Mm.
yeah, other people are prioritized. And so that feeling of like, oh, that's actually
Mm.
fading away some. Yeah.
Yeah, right. As you start to prioritize other people instead of yourself, was is that in an effort to kind of fit in as you're going through your adolescence, or is there something else happening, that empathy coming through, or I'm curious
Yeah.
what was happening for you there.
Totally. Yeah, I think it was definitely the like fitting in, and also going from kind of went from like smaller environments to bigger environments. So
Mm.
like a
Yeah.
bigger, way bigger school,
Hmm.
and that kind of difference too. And so like there's multiple people to start like, oh, where do I belong? What do I
Right.
do? And then also
Yeah.
with that, just like they're, yeah, seeing people having harder times, or like really, yeah, coping with really big life things, and so like being there, but with that not being there as much for myself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, I just think of you maybe getting diluted in these bigger
Totally.
crowds versus
Yeah.
being young and just being able to really center around your needs and your
Yeah.
sensitivity. Yeah, it's easier to
Yeah.
lose ourselves when other people's needs are coming more into the forefront.
Totally. I think there's also too like noticing now too around that like being observed or being watched. I'm like that's such a difference too. And so different experiences where maybe I was more like judged,
Mm-hmm.
or yeah, or just being in some way like you're different,
Mm-hmm.
or you're not enough, you're not as smart, like all of those, and all of that kind of coming together and processing, but also
Mm-hmm.
trying to like take in, because there was so long of like taking in and it being like, okay, like it's okay to take in, and then, whoa, actually there's things to like filter.
Right.
And yeah.
That's true, right? At the beginning, you get to be kind of this open vessel,
Yeah.
and then realizing, oh, wait, I might need to discern what to take in and what not to take in. I love that
Yeah.
idea of like, oh, I need to put up a filter here. It's
Mhm.
too much to take this all in.
Yeah.
As you were taking more in, I'm curious, what were you noticing for yourself? Were you more overwhelmed? Were you, feeling other people's emotions? What was happening as you went into
Yeah.
this other phase?
Definitely a lot more, yeah, feeling other people's emotions and that kind of like, of course, that like kind of caretaker role in different ways, even if it wasn't asked of me. But then it kind of started to be like, oh, well, Lucy always will be a sounding board. And
Right.
yeah, that kind of thing. So at first, yeah, very much like feeling into others'
Mm.
emotions. And then also with that, like being so overwhelmed with that too, or feeling like yeah just like other people being able to move on from intense
Yeah.
experiences or
Mm.
little situations that would happen out
Mhm.
of control and me just feeling like very much like oh this is still really intense or
Yeah.
um and the beauty of that too of like oh this is such an like powerful experience too and
Yes.
like little words of a caretaker just sticking in my mind or like deeply
Mm.
connected times with friends sticking in my mind,
Mm.
but then there's also that, yeah, that total overwhelm and body feeling it. And
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it really does stick with us no matter what's happening, whether it's uncomfortable and difficult, edgy, or if it's beautiful and meaningful. All of it sticks
All of
around.
it. Yeah.
And needing time with
Yeah.
that. And it can be hard when you see other people bouncing back so quickly or moving on so quickly. It's like, well, how do we find that time to slow down and to be different, to filter, to discern? Um,
Mhm.
sounds like you went from being very open and moving forward to maybe needing to maybe pull back a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel that too at like different um like relationships too that maybe at first like oh yeah this is just how it is and then that kind of actually this is a lot more like loudness or this is a lot more energy or this is yeah so that kind of
Yeah.
feeling of now I need to like do
Yeah.
something in my system is like I really need to
Right.
yeah pull back.
Yes. As you've gone through and, you know, had these experiences, what have you found is supportive for you as a sensitive person? What would you
Oh,
bring in?
so
Yeah.
many things. Yeah, so much. I feel like
Yeah.
too, that's just always been there. So like that,
Yeah.
I feel like watercolor,
Mm.
doing just anything art related,
Mm.
creative. And that's also been a way that in the past, I feel like even younger years, I could really like take in some of the energy or loudness or intensity if I'm also releasing as
Ooh.
well on into watercolor, into painting, listening to conversations that maybe were a little bit more intense in family, but then me being kind of like observer, taking in emotions
Mm.
while that like doing something grounding, doing something releasing. And so for
Mm.
me, it's always been there that kind of yeah that like creative part so doing
Mm.
art still to this day
Mm-hmm.
just feels incredibly grounding and incredibly expressive and a way to really see myself too I felt like
Mm.
I remember also like looking at middle school and high school art and everything. There's just this kind of like, oh, those are times that I could really see myself, even if I was trying to go into all of these
Mm.
different like relationships or mask a little bit more, try to be
Mm.
this or chameleon, like all of that. I really there were times of still being with myself or yeah really seeing myself in a way
Yeah.
that yeah that other things like I couldn't do as much or yeah so art has always been there that's like watercolor acrylic painting drawing
Mm-hmm.
and it can just be like playing with color too it does not
Yeah.
yeah and so I feel like there's that like expressive part and then there's also that really grounding part
Mm.
and there's also that really like needing emotion out and there was one post that you made a while back just around like movement, like with excitement
Uh-huh.
and stuff. But there was something about that that reminded me too of different ways that I would like move my body when I was younger and then now what that looks like. But yeah, there's just ways that like either way, that kind of
Mm.
expression. whether, yeah, movement, dancing,
Mm-hmm.
even to this day, writing, drawing, being in nature, all of that just feels
Yes.
so soothing.
Yeah, creativity can manifest in many ways.
Yes.
And I love that you said, you can just put colors on a page,
Oh,
play with color. It doesn't have to be anything formal. Um, and it sounds like creativity was a through line for you, even before maybe you
mhm.
realized how you were using it.
Yes,
Uh,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, it's beautiful just the way you described it as it's not just this tactile expression, it's grounding, it's finding yourself again. And I hadn't thought about this, but it is really moving emotion through out of you onto the page when there doesn't have to be words.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like that too, of like being able to, with the not having words, sometimes like having so much processing and everything, but being able to do that and like have that space on paper and that there isn't a way to mess up. Like it's really just like,
Yeah.
this is you. And you can, if you don't want anyone else to see it, that's okay too. And it's just like, this is you, but it's a way to really like settle into yourself. And then little by little, you start to have the words, but you don't necessarily
Hmm.
have to. And I feel like in the past, being sensitive, there was kind of, and I had some people or like caregivers in my life who were very loquacious, like had a
Uh,
lot of words
yes.
and very yeah, extroverted. And so being
Mhm.
able to in those moments like have a pause for myself and then share and that being acceptable of like, oh,
Yes.
I'm just doing art. This is and then I'll share, but yeah, I'll
Right.
listen and take it in and then see where I'm at. So it's always,
Yeah.
yeah, but I didn't always know what I was doing.
Hmm. I think that's such a common experience I hear from sensitive folks, whether it was knowing they're more sensitive or just leaning into certain ways of living before they even knew what they were doing, just trusting that intuition. It's so beautiful.
Yes.
I love it. And then
Yeah.
it often will kind of adapt and change over time as more awareness comes in. But just having that space to not have to have words, to not have to have it figured out, especially when we have so many somatic experiences as sensitive people, there aren't always words I've found.
Yes.
And so to
Yeah.
have another outlet, and I love that you said you can't mess up. There's no one right way to do this. You can just be in the process. What beautiful permission.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love that. I'm
Yeah.
curious, as you're using, you talked about using cards and how you
Mhm.
pulled a card for this conversation and to think about that. Um, how can we use imagery? So we've talked about kind of loosely art, but if we get more specific with imagery and cards and other symbols, how can we use that to support us in our processing?
Oh, everywhere. I love it
Everywhere! Oh, I
so
can't wait.
much.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel, I mean, really just being able to sit with imagery and we
Mm,
just being so like such this inner world and have so much creativity. And so to be able to create space for that and then see things in new ways. So I feel like a
yeah.
lot of the time, like, even exploring like what stands out. And this can be on a
Mm,
card, this can be in a magazine, this can
yeah.
be and I did it the other day where I didn't have any cards or imagery
Hmm.
besides nature around and then be like, okay, what is this
Oh,
mountain reflecting to me right now of like how I'm feeling or what is a message here? And it's just that like that sense of really yeah, that settling with it and seeing things in a new way where sometimes if you're really cognitive and really in the words, we can get so like, this is just how it is. And so there's a way
right.
to expand
Mm.
and play. And then that, yeah, I feel like I feel like imagery can really give you that chance of play.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could pull, like you said, pull us out of the words, those confines of the words, especially when we're having such a nuanced, depthful experience. The words do not do it justice at all. And I
Yeah.
remember I worked with a somatic therapist years back, and every session we would start, she just had images that she had cut out or printed or photographs or postcards that she had found at the thrift store. And we would
Yeah.
just use those, and it was really helpful in kind of reconnecting with myself. Like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm drawn to this image. And then being curious, why am I drawn to it? Or,
Yeah.
oh, I can't figure out what I want to say, but this image speaks to what I'm
Yes.
feeling.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of taking that practice. You don't have to have cards or even cutouts. You could
Yeah.
look outside in your environment, in your world, a cloud, a mountain, if you have mountains, um,
Yeah.
a tree, an animal. That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
That feels like it really opens up a lot for me as I hear you say that, because I had never considered
Oh,
that we could take
yeah.
this practice out into our worlds.
Anything. Yeah. And just like, what
Yeah.
does it reflect to you? And it's all
Mm,
about your own experience and that sense of like, yeah, what is your body sensation with that? What is that like intuition around the message? What is this connecting to as well? Like maybe you see something and then all of a sudden it connects with like an experience you had. And then what about that experience that is like why is that coming up now for you? And then maybe there's been a lesson there that you learned in that experience and now it's here. So it's like this beautiful way to expand the map, it feels
mm,
like. And so, and then also to just sit, yeah, together and almost like have that, yeah, that
mm,
common language as well. So like to both, even if you don't have the words, to both see the same thing
mm,
and from that, yeah, with friends, with yeah, loved ones and sessions, all of that, but being able
mm,
to have this and also yeah, see each other. It's a way of really seeing each other, I feel like, but in a way that can feel a little bit more like safe sometimes or comforting or less of just right away vulnerable yet still very vulnerable. Yeah, so yeah, it
yes.
can just do many different things, but
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, as you're talking, like just starting with, what does this bring up for me? And then how am I feeling about this? And what does that remind me of? And all these
Yeah.
questions just spill out.
Mhm.
And just reminds me of our natural way of being as sensitive people, how we make connections in our minds and
Yeah.
our experiences, and just allows us to come home to ourselves
Oh,
and be
yeah.
with our process. And then how beautiful to be able to share that with someone else without needing to figure out necessarily how to communicate it if the words aren't there. It could be an opportunity to deepen. We're both looking
Mhm.
at this beautiful image and then maybe being curious, what does that bring up for them?
Yes.
This is really
Yeah.
amazing to think about how we could use that. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. I love it too as a way to get creative as well. So, like, almost like if this one image happened to be like a creative exploration for myself, what would that be as well? And so, that kind of playing around with that as well. So, turning what image you see into like an expression
Mm.
too from there onto paper again. So, like, one
Oh.
image turning into another image that you
Oh.
create and then
Wow.
being able to talk to you. But yeah, that just can go ongoing.
Oh, amazing. So when you say taking an image, expressing onto the page, you mean letting it inspire you to create your own art or
Yeah.
just play on the page? Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it could
Mhm.
really open up a lot, I can imagine.
Yeah.
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 And you spoke to something about it being safer. I'm wondering if you could say more about that. How is working with imagery maybe safer than working with words or conversation?
Yeah. So I feel like sometimes um with where if you're just asked like a question or something, it can feel so direct or so
Mm.
intense or almost like so
Yeah.
pressure. But with imagery, there's that pause, and then also you can share whatever you want to share from that.
Mm.
And it's not necessarily like it can be yeah, however you're seeing it, but there isn't this feeling of like this is the only answer. It's like,
Mm.
okay, I can see this part, and then I can also
Yeah.
see this part. And yeah, I think with that space, and then also it's a lot of the time to like if we've had really intense experiences that like the part of our brain connected with language can go offline, and so to have imagery too and then to express
Yeah.
that way can just be so much more comfortable and like actually like
Mhm.
not get us out into this like fight flight freeze fawn. It
Sure.
can, yeah, it can really like ground us.
Hmm. That makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. It just opens up a lot of room to explore your experience, not have to come up with the perfect answer or response.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, especially because we often don't know what's going on until we
Mm.
kind of get in there and explore a little bit. And this offers, it seems like a just a practice for doing that. Just see what's
Mhm.
here.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I feel too, just, I mean, because with that highly sensitive, self and just how much we see beauty and then also how much we see, yeah, kind of those like harder things as well and how we feel, but with the beauty in a card too, just like being so just connected with one particular color or
Yes.
one thing that really just elates us, like,
Yes.
because there's a way to just really zero in. And then with imagery too, it's something really safe that you can just turn the page or go to
Hmm.
a different card or decide not to look at something. So
Yeah,
there's also choice there. And that also creates safety when there's choice.
absolutely. Yeah, you get to decide.
Hmm.
Yeah, and be elated or set a boundary.
Yeah,
Put it
exactly.
aside.
Yeah,
Ooh, what a
yeah.
good practice for life.
Yes. Yeah.
I wonder, or would you be open to walking us through a card pull, what that looks like?
Totally. Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
happy to. Yeah. So
'Cause I
I
know this
have.
might be new for some folks, or if you're like me, you might have some cards that you are still figuring out how to interact with.
Yes, I would love to. Well,
Thank
one
you.
thing I just love is the way, I mean, with art too, it's just like there isn't a right or wrong. And I think
Mm.
sometimes if you're thinking like, okay, oracle or tarot cards, imagery cards, it's like there's only one meaning, but no, it's
Right.
all about what it brings up for you. And so instead of
Yes.
it being like, predictive and like, oh, this is about future, this is really about like, what do you notice,
Mm.
projective, what is it bringing up for you today that maybe tomorrow you notice a completely different thing. And like, what a fun thing to look at the same card and see a completely different thing based on
Yeah.
where you're at. So that kind of mirror, and
Mm.
then also knowing there isn't like any bad cards, they're all
Yes.
just ways to explore. So, and also with that, there's ways that some folks will be like, okay, I want to like learn everything about the cards
Yeah.
before and do all the learning, but so much of the learning can happen in your own
Mm.
intuition and then exploring, okay, what does the guidebook say? So, like
Right.
playing around too with that so you don't have to know everything before you start using them.
That's so helpful to know that it can be a very personal experience. You might
Yeah,
want to read the guidebook if that provides some safety or structure, but you don't
totally.
have to. It's so personal. And
Yeah.
what a beautiful metaphor around our emotions that it can change and it will change.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
okay too. Yeah.
Yeah. It can be wild to just, yeah, to like pull for certain times and then all of
Yeah.
a sudden you have, yeah, this whole different understanding and deepening. And so yeah, and
Yes.
there can almost be like a way that cards can be your friends too, like that
Yeah.
support, and you can really, there's choice in how you pull too. So maybe you'll do like
Hmm.
messages from like past, present, future self and what I want to notice, or maybe a message of like energy of the day I want to tap
Hmm.
into, or how can I honor my sensitive self right now? Like it's just
Yeah.
playing around with questions
I
that
love it.
feel right for you.
Hmm. You
So
can
I'll
have
just
different inquiries depending on what's going on for you that day.
exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
even that can be incredibly creative. And even that there
Hmm.
isn't a right or wrong way. It's just whatever comes up for you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Love
So
that.
yeah, maybe just noticing like what I'm feeling right now. What
Hmm.
kind of is happening right now in my world, what I'm noticing.
As Lucy is pulling a card, I just want to, if you're listening to this and you want to see the cards, you can watch on YouTube.
Yeah,
So that way,
totally.
I'm sure it could be nice to have a visual element as we talk
Yes,
about
exactly.
imagery.
All the visuals and imagery.
Exactly.
And yeah, I am pulling from the Light Seers Tarot right now. This is
Mm.
Chris Ann Donnelly. She has some really incredible, just creative artwork. And she also, on her website, she has a free card pull. So if you don't have your own
Oh,
as well, it can be nice to just, even on the go, be able to pull a card for free.
oh, that's beautiful.
So that can be really lovely. And this is just a, yeah, sweet, just noticing. And there's plenty of, yeah, just really wonderful imagery cards out here. So I'm just kind of spreading them out. And this is also kind of part of my noticing intuition, like kind of pausing, seeing what
Mm.
it feels like, where I'm
Mm.
at. And I'll just kind of put my hands over the cards and just notice anything somatically that kind of tells me, like, oh, this card. It's like what I'm noticing right now. And it's this one, and I have no idea what it is. There's also something really powerful about just that
Mhm.
spontaneity where you're just like,
Yes.
whatever this is, I don't know what it is. And so it also gets you out of this, so yeah, the body sensation of or the cognitive, like, oh, it has
Mm.
to be this. It's like, okay, so we have the King of Cups. Um,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
you see, okay,
Beautiful
yeah.
card. Yeah.
Yeah. And so for me, I'm just gonna spend a moment and just notice what like first kind of stands out to me. And you can do this by maybe just noticing like, okay, what colors am I noticing or drawn to? If I'm looking at all the details of the card, um what is, yeah, just kind of drawing my attention the most. And this is just yeah, a person who's kind of in the water and flow with this kind of bowl that they're just kind of moving their hand towards.
Mm.
So for me, there's been a lot around how to kind of find um, space and grounding and steadiness, even if there is that up and down. So even
Mm.
if there's like the ebb and flow of business, the ebb and flow of life, the intensity, the calmness, the discomfort with some of those different parts. But this really just, I see so much, and this is feeling more where I'm at right now. Whereas last week I was feeling a little bit more angsty, antsy, and that kind of like ending of summer into fall
Yeah.
feeling. And I feel like also being sensitive, we just are really
Yes.
connected to the seasons. And so yeah, so for me, like I really see this like glowing around the head and then heart. And so so much of like this message of like just do what's in integrity and in love and with um yeah, intention. And so like seeing so much around that heart. And for me, there's a little boat in the background, and with the
Mm.
boat in the background, it's just like that's a strong boat. It doesn't, it's a little boat, but it's like the
Uh-huh.
little engine that could boat. Like it's
Oh, I
just
love
that,
that.
yeah, it just looks like it can just weather the waves.
Mm.
And there are going to be waves. So, and then there's also something really beautiful with the actual movement of the hand towards the bowl as well. And this is this one just noticing that. And there's actually,
Mm.
I'm noticing like a vibration that they're kind of
Mm.
creating. So they're actually making a vibration and
Wow.
sound that can affect the water. And with that, it's like, what are different ways right now for me, even if things feel out of control, or even
Mm.
if things feel like that ebb and flow is too much, or anything like that, what is a little thing that I can do that still creates some kind of vibration around that
Mm.
still, and so that like sharing my love like in all the different ways,
Yeah.
whether that's yeah in friendships, in relationship to myself, anything like that. But like using that kind of sharing of compassion, sensitive
Mm.
love, seeing people, even if certain areas of my life yeah, I have a little bit more dormant. So, yeah, there's
Yeah.
something like that of like, how can I really tune into that love? And then how can I be steady in the
Mm.
ebb and flow? And
Mm.
then how can I kind of create some kind of way of still affecting my external environment?
Mm. So
Yeah.
beautiful to just to see you go through that process and all that it can bring up, and just letting
Yeah.
it be organic. I see this part of the image, and it brings up this and this other piece, and so, so, so powerful to use, even just seeing one image,
Yeah.
which on the surface, it's a relatively, I would say, simple image for a card,
Yeah.
because I've seen ones that are a lot more complex,
Mm-hmm.
but we're able to focus on the nuances, the ripple with the finger in the
Yes.
water, the boat in the background, and the, like you said, the energy coming off the card that's emanating from the card, this peacefulness.
Yeah.
I love how you said, it's this ebb and flow, and alignment was coming up for me, just like the alignment
Mm.
between head and the heart, and
Yeah.
how what we do ripples out and impacts others, and just so much. We could just imagine go on and on.
Exactly.
Yes. I'm
Yeah.
wondering as okay, I'm just thinking of my experience as a sensitive
Mhm.
person, and obviously doing a practice like this is pretty
Mhm.
straightforward on the surface, but internally there's a lot happening.
Yeah.
It can be very evocative.
Mhm.
A lot could come through.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on just taking care of ourselves as these thoughts, emotions, other images and memories come up as we're doing our card pull
Yeah, I
or
love
working with an
that.
image. Yeah. What
Yeah.
helps for you as you're going through this practice, kind of taking care of yourself with what
Yeah.
comes up?
Mhm. Something that like I'll sometimes do if I'm just noticing like, oh, I really want some extra support is go through
Yeah.
and looking at all the images and choosing a card
Mm.
beforehand that connects with a support. So like this
Wow.
card is going to support me, this image is going to support me in whatever I pull to.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, or you can connect with beforehand of someone in your life, real or imaginary, someone from a book, someone from a
Mm-hmm.
movie, like anything nature, like anything that can hold you. Um, when you do a card pull.
Wow.
And then also with all of that, like again, that like choice piece, also creating a space for you that feels comforting. So maybe having a smell close by that feels really comforting to you, maybe your dog or yeah,
Mm-hmm.
animal being sensitive to, maybe something really soft, just creating an environment that feels comforting. And then also if there is like maybe you want to almost set a little time in the beginning. Like in the beginning, you don't necessarily like have to go straight into, there's never a have to with this. It's all
Mm-hmm.
about your own practice. But if you feel like, oh, a lot could be brought up if I have like an hour to do this, like what happens if it's just one card for the day? Like this
Mm-hmm.
feels like a nice container of like, what's the energy that I want to tap into today?
Mm-hmm.
And then somehow see some part of the card that resonates with that. So there's kind of that like creating the environment,
Mm-hmm.
also anything of comfort, also
Yeah.
creating some kind of container if that feels good.
Yeah.
Any way of expressing too. So maybe that
Mm-hmm.
is like, maybe it taps into something kind of intense, and then you can pull a different card and like, okay, well, how is this gonna come
Mm-hmm.
up? Or maybe an expression of writing and just like really vigorous writing, and then like
Oh.
crumpling up the paper, and or ripping it, or like anything like that. But
Yeah.
just that still gives you a choice in it. I think that's everything is
Mm.
about you and your experience, and then finding that resource, finding that container.
I love that. Everything is about you. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
this is maybe one of the spaces that we get to say that if that's not available in a lot
Mhm.
of places, like this is up to you. There's no one right way to do this, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And bringing some intentionality to take care of yourself in it, whether that's some type of an
Mhm.
anchor or a person, a place, real or imaginary. Um, Taking care of your nervous system, have those comforts,
Yeah.
those sensory supports, and
Mm.
maybe not needing to throw yourself into the process, maybe just spending a few minutes.
Totally.
And then it sounds like being able to express whatever comes through or change your mind
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
change how you approach it instead of pulling a card blind. It sounds like you could choose a card.
Totally.
More predictable. I love it. There's
Yeah,
so
there's
much
so much.
personalization here.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that can be so powerful of just like what
Mm-hmm.
is one of the cards that somehow stands out to me right now and
Yeah.
not needing to know exactly why when you pull it and then just like what am I
Exactly.
gonna write up? Yeah, with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I'm wondering, would you be open to sharing us a few of the other images from this deck just so we can get a
Yeah.
sense or if anything calls to you?
Totally. Yeah, of course. And I love too with I just there's an art too of like finding imagery that really resonates. So some
Yes.
people will really love like a deck that just doesn't have any people on that because maybe a person would feel like too much. So maybe they just want nature images. And there's so many incredible decks out there made by so many incredible people that really like can resonate with you.
Hmm.
So maybe you'll be less like it'll feel less intense if it is just like nature or there's a dog deck. Like it's hard sometimes to, yeah. So really just finding what feels good. So I'll just kind of
Oh,
show,
yes.
and I don't know exactly what's being pulled up, but can you see okay?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Wow, these are beautiful.
Yeah. So there's just all different. And I think, and again, coming back to like, there isn't like any bad, yeah, any
Mm-hmm.
card that is bad or negative or means something about you that you pulled it. It's all just like this
Yes.
is almost like you can almost look at it as like you're in an art museum. And if you don't like something that you see, you just move to the next painting or you
That's
just put
true.
it away or you decide to leave the museum. So,
Mm-hmm. I could see this deck. There's these different scenes I'm looking at bring up a lot of different emotion.
yeah,
I could
yeah,
see really just leading yourself on a journey. Some more
totally.
spiritual, some more like grief or
Yeah.
introspection, just lots of different
Totally.
things
Yeah.
being pulled up. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
What a beautiful
Yeah.
deck.
I know. Yeah, it's really lovely. It's a great one to start with too.
Can you
Yeah.
remind me the name of that?
Yeah, it's the Light Seers Tarot.
Lightseers
And
Tarot.
yeah, Chris Ann Donnelly. And she just, yeah, on her site, she has some really amazing things.
Great. I'll
Yeah.
be sure to share that in the show notes for folks if they want
Lovely.
to check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Thank
I'm happy
you.
always to share other, yeah, decks too. I just
Beautiful.
have so much fun with finding imagery that really can resonate and
Yes.
everything. So, yeah, and then maybe if like tarot, like you're not quite wanting to explore that right now, there's
Hmm.
also just cards that have no words or that doesn't have the meaning on there or anything
Hmm.
too. So you can just play with like what is it like to just have imagery only. Or words
Sure.
only. Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that, but you could really choose the decks with the type of imagery or the content that really speaks to you. That would feel
Yeah.
really supportive. I'm curious because I've been in spiritual bookstores or at crystal shops, things like that, where I found decks. Where do you find your decks for folks that maybe are looking for their first deck?
Yeah. Kind of so also, yeah, those kind of stores a
Mm-hmm.
lot of time on their website too. And they just
Mm-hmm.
sometimes have all of these little hidden gems that you would never know are there. So they're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, here's a whole audio that goes with each
Yes.
card too that can guide you along.
Oh.
Or yeah, so I feel like that going to their site
Mm-hmm.
can be really sweet.
I
And
love
just
this.
seeing like what else, because they if they already have had imagery that you really connect with, they might have other really cool resources or freebies on there too. So
Amazing.
that, yeah, and Etsy is really lovely
Oh
too.
yeah, that's
And
true.
then, yeah, I think just going also on like YouTube and seeing what are deck
Mm-hmm.
guide throughs or walkthroughs, like nature deck walkthroughs. What does
Mm-hmm.
that then being able to just play around with that and then deciding from there where to
Oh,
order
wow.
it.
I
Yeah.
love that. This is a whole world. Feels like
Yeah.
it's opening up.
Yes.
What a beautiful
Yeah.
thing. Thank you for that.
Totally.
And thank you
Yeah.
for sharing one of your decks with us. That feels
Mhm.
really special. So thank you for
Oh,
that.
yes. Yeah. It was fun.
And
Yeah.
I know you do carpools on your Instagram so folks can see you doing other practices there, which is great,
Totally.
just to get some inspiration. I'm curious, do you have any
Yes.
other favorite creative prompts that you love to explore with
Oh,
yourself or with clients in
yes.
addition to your card
Totally.
pulls?
Yeah, I mean, one of the go-tos, I just will do it often, and then also something that I just invite clients as well, but just draw a line, shape, and color for kind of
Mm,
how you're feeling right now. And that can be in there, again, there isn't a right or wrong. It's just all about your experience. And this is
yeah.
getting out of like the very like logical or this is the exact literal interpretation, like what happens if you do a little abstract with
Mm.
that. So just line, shape, and color, and it's incredible what can come up. And like also the release and that validation too. And so
Yeah.
for my own, if I just have a minute even and I
Hmm.
just need to like tap into like where I'm at, sometimes just doing like what is a color that I'm pulled to right now?
Yeah.
What are the different shapes connected to
Mm.
my feelings right now? Also being able to draw the people in your life or maybe relationships that you're having or family members, anything, but as plants. And that also brings a little like, yeah, where you can get so much understanding, but it's not like this literal person right away. So you're like, oh yeah, I can like create whatever imagery around this and see what comes up for me. So
Mm.
like yeah, that can be really lovely. And then also for like more resourcing and connecting with grounding, I love to just notice like if there is a place, what are line, shape, and colors for that place that
Mm.
feels really grounding, or drawing your environment if it's a really comforting place. Um, there's also really amazing just like understanding and settling with slow drawing too. So
Mm.
maybe if you're feeling like oh I'm really this is intense or overwhelmed, what happens if you just really
Mm.
practice drawing very, very slow? And Amy Miracle has some amazing resources on that and
Great.
has a free, like, yes, it's Facebook group with really wonderful
Mm.
videos, but all about like very slow, intentional shapes and drawings.
Mm.
And so, yeah, so I think it's just and for me in sessions and in my own life, there again is like no right or wrong. And so it's just like, what comes up? And oh, what would happen if you created something connected
Yes.
to that? And that also creates space to just notice, even if it's like, I don't know exactly, I have no idea what the shape is, but even that was time to pause, do something,
Yeah.
ground or express, and then share,
Mm.
which can just be so powerful when we need a little time for ourselves.
Yeah, what a beautiful way to channel what you're feeling. And especially in
Mhm.
relationships, sometimes for me, it's too edgy to really be so direct with who I'm feeling something about. But if I could change them into a plant
Yes.
or an image, it
Yes.
would feel that feels like there's a lot of safety there. And I could go
Mhm.
to places that maybe I would feel too scared to go to.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, just the playfulness of that and the permission to be imperfect.
Yeah.
Ah, so
Yes.
I'm
So
just gonna go to the art store after this and get some
yes, this
pens
is what
and
I want, April. Yes, it's
because
amazing.
this is it. There's so much possibility. You don't have to be an artist. You can just
No.
play and see
Right.
what comes onto the page and see what you feel inspired to do and line, shape, color. That seems
That's
so
it.
accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if like if you are feeling like, oh, this perfectionist, like what happens if you close your eyes and do that? Like
Ooh.
still there's a a release that can happen and like almost that no matter what, this isn't going to be beautiful too. Like it just kind of takes that
Yeah.
perfectionism
Mm,
sense away and too. So there's
yeah.
so many different ways to explore, but really just playing with it. And it's all about
Mhm.
the process. Like what happens like when it's yeah, just really creating for the
Mm.
experience of creating and then bringing more of that into your life, it just like creates all this other expansion of, yeah,
Mm.
what happens if I thought about this in a different what happens if I explore this in a different way?
Yeah, it allows you to try on different ways of being and thinking and
Mhm.
relating to yourself and your world. It seems like a lot of just permission to be in the present and not worry about the outcome. And we
Mhm.
really need to be able to experience that as sensitive people.
Yes,
Yeah, it's so
yeah.
beautiful. If
Mm.
someone was maybe struggling to connect with their creativity in this way or tap into their imagination as a resource, was there a message that you could share with them of encouragement?
Mm. Yeah. And again, like that there isn't a right or wrong. And then also just exploring like what is a creative outlet that would feel most comfortable and kind of safe for you to start with. So maybe drawing, if you had an experience in the past where maybe you were told something like hard when you were younger, like maybe drawing isn't the thing that we start with. Maybe we start with just looking at images in a magazine and cutting them out and then seeing what it feels like to put them out on paper or
Mm,
yeah, or maybe writing or maybe knitting, but like what happens if just like one of those
yeah.
things and then bring that in more
Mm,
or yeah, I think that kind of feeling of like finding the thing that really works
yeah.
like right now feels like the most low stakes. That could be like arranging rocks in your
Oh.
backyard. Like, yeah, it can just be really what feels supportive for you and
Mm,
then seeing from there. I think also having for me having like a setup that is just so like it's hard not to go towards it, so it's just something that like is so easy to travel with. Like for me, one of an amazing tool in session and outside of session is just these twistable Crayola crayons that like you can't break and they yeah all different colors, so it's like vibrant but it's just a crayon and you just do like what happens if you play with that and it's so easy to grab and
mm,
um you don't have to sharpen them or yeah, so
yeah.
the thing that you could just like I'm gonna just spend 2 minutes on this today and see what happens if I just am in front of my page with a crayon or watercolor pen or whatever for 2 minutes
Yeah.
and then where does it
Yeah.
go?
I love
Yeah.
that. Just starting with what's available to you, what feels
Yes.
safe to you, and
Yeah.
not needing to put pressure on yourself to do it for very long or to do it a certain way. I love it. It could be as simple as going into your yard, arranging some rocks, or
Yeah.
maybe something in your house,
Yeah.
or maybe going to the craft store and buying some
Yes.
crayons. And
Yes,
how
exactly.
beautiful!
Yeah. Just
Yeah,
playing with it. Yeah.
yeah. I love that so
Mm.
much. Thank you so much for this. I
Yes.
am excited to dive in.
I'm excited for you.
Thank
Yes.
you. And I hope folks are, I'm sure, I mean, you've given us so many avenues to come back to self and to explore these rich inner worlds that we have that sometimes feel really overwhelming and we don't know what to do with. But
Mm.
this is a very tactile, I guess, exploratory way to do it. That and there's so many avenues. I just love it so much.
Mhm.
I'll be sure to share with folks all of your, you have a lot of different
Yeah.
resources.
Oh, yeah.
Your website, your Instagram, your podcast. I know you
Mhm.
offer therapy intensives and
Yeah.
consultation for other therapists. So if other therapists
Yes.
want to bring some of this in, you're available. Um,
Absolutely.
the one thing I would love to hear more about from you before we end, though, is what are the therapy intensives? I know a lot of folks may not know what that means. If you could share just a little
Yeah.
bit more about that.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah. So with therapy intensives, if you just want to feel a little more relief, kind of faster, sometimes therapy with every week or every other week for a certain kind of shorter amount of time, especially highly sensitive, we can feel like, oh, I just opened that and now this close or really getting to the sense of energy in the room, and then we don't see each other and there's a whole lot of stuff that happens in a week. So yeah, therapy intensives are usually we can start either 2 hours a day for 3 days a week, or it can be longer than that depending on what feels supportive. And then it's for a very like concentrated amount of time usually. And this can be really lovely for folks who are just like, I really want to have this intentional time for my healing and then also not be in therapy for years and years too. And so a way it just can be amazing what can happen when you have like, oh, I'm seeing my, we're going to work together the next day. So whatever's brought up, we have
Oh,
tomorrow. And there doesn't have to be as much of this like containing and are we okay to really open this up? Or do you have the resources? It's just like at tomorrow, we're just going to come right back here and not much has happened since
right.
yesterday, so we can explore. Yeah, and so being able to sometimes it's like someone is wanting to feel different for this new life chapter. So like if they're gonna be moving soon or they are getting a new job experience or anything like that, there can be that. Or also like a lot of just I'm really finally ready to dedicate to my healing and really feel different, and I want to do it now instead of
Yes.
like little by little. And so yeah, so it's just a different
Mhm.
like more concentrated work,
Yeah.
usually multiple days,
Mhm.
for yeah concentrated time. And that can
Yeah.
be yeah more like complex trauma. It can be
Mhm.
yeah, like more just like a very specific, like I had this experience that was really hard and really overwhelming recently, or yeah, that just keeps
Mhm.
coming up and exploring. And so just knowing you have this container, and with that too, like I love just how with the spaciousness, there's so much chance for creativity too. So just being able
Yes.
to like wherever it feels right to go as far as
Yeah.
how you want to explore and express and like build that trust and comfort
Mhm.
together. And all of that is just right there in that, yeah, certain amount of time. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so beautiful to have that space to be able to deep dive like we often want to do as sensitive people,
Yes.
and to have also to have the room in the session to have things like creative process come through, not feel rushed like, oh, we only have 50 minutes, I have to hurry up and get through this. And how many times have we experienced that in our lives as HSPs where we're rushed through our feelings?
Yes.
But this,
Yeah.
you get to savor and linger and know there's support right around the corner again. So the
Hmm.
process keeps moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Is that something you offer just in Portland, or do you offer it online for folks in Oregon, or who can reach out to you for those?
Yeah, so right now it's yeah, just in person
Okay.
in
Yep.
Portland,
Mm-hmm.
Oregon. But there
Beautiful.
is a chance of yeah, just
Mm-hmm.
down the line a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
online. So
Great.
folks still are welcome to reach out. And
Beautiful.
I think it can also be lovely, yeah, even if it's like, oh, I don't have necessarily like one trauma, but it's more like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I really want to feel just more like connected to myself,
Yeah.
regulated,
Mm-hmm.
grounded, creative, all of that. Like that can be really lovely
Yeah.
too with them. So
Mhm.
yeah, so mostly just in person right now, but potential down the line.
Yeah. And I imagine your therapist consultations are for anywhere or
Yes. Yep.
beautiful.
Anywhere.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
lovely. So
yeah.
so many ways for folks to work with you, to connect with you, whether it's on Instagram or through your podcast or through the
Mhm.
other resources that you offer. And then for a few special folks to get to work with you in person.
Yes. Yeah. No.
Lovely.
Yeah. And
Lucy,
with
thank
the
you so much.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been just a joy.
Yeah. And do you want to mention about your consultations?
Yeah, so just with consultation, like similar to what I did with my own like card pull, that's just a way to also
Mhm.
explore your own practice and
Hmm.
experience and everything as a therapist. So we explore through creativity and cards and really I love just the making sensitive systems that just work really
Yes.
well for you, whether it's changing your schedule and to
Mhm.
really work for you or having your own little rituals and
Yes.
in between sessions or just a
Mhm.
whole, yeah, new creative way of doing something. It's just a joy to do that.
Love that. Yeah, we really need that as sensitive therapists, having those supports so we can bring ourselves into our work and make sure we have some space too and things work
Yes.
for us long term. So important. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, Lucy, thank you again. This was such a lovely conversation.
Yes, I loved it. Yeah, it's been
Yes.
so wonderful.
Yes, thank you. And I'll be sure to share all of those resources that you mentioned in the show notes for folks they can dive into.